It's hard to put into words a town like Sodom and Amorah, a place where a grandfather would grab the hand of his grandson to lead him along with the angry mob who grabs their pitchforks and stands outside of Lot's home saying, "Give us the guests. We know that you're doing achnasas orchim, and we don't allow chesed in this town." It's hard to picture such a dystopia, a town that could sink to such moral lows. People so shallow and grotesque that you could breed with anyone or anything and lynch and murder at any turn and at any point. And in our Parsha, we learn about this, how terrible the people of Sodom were and how Avraham Avinu still sought to save them, and he prayed for them. Now, I came across a Medrash in Yalkut Shemoni. It's in Parshas Hazinu, on the pasuk of Zachar Yemais Olam Binu Shenos Dar Vadar. The Medrash says, it's in Tuf Kuf Mem Beis, Zachar Yemos Olam, remember the days of the world. Hazkiru ma she'asisi b'doros harishonim, remember the first generations of the world, and how the people of Noach's generation of the flood were so corrupt. Ma she'asisi ba'anshe dar haflaga, remember Nimrod and his Tower of Bavel that he built up to wage war with Hashem, and how evil they were. And lastly, ma she'asisi ba'anshe Sodom va'Amorah, how evil and wicked the people of Sodom and Amorah were. So the Medrash actually says that we should strive to remember how evil these generations were, how low society can fall. And then the Medrash takes an interesting turn. Binu shenos dar vadar is the next words of the pasuk. You should contemplate the years of the generations to the generations. There is not a generation that passes that doesn't have folks, people that are as wicked as in those days. Ein lecha dar she'ein bo ka'anshe dar haflaga. There is people like the Nimrod army, Migdal, Bavel people as shallow and as low and as morally corrupt as those of the inhabitants of Sodom and Amorah show up each and every generation. It's really a hair-raising teaching. And if you follow the story of the Torah, you'll meet people like the likes of Esav, the deceptive archer, who always sought to impress his father, but really had evil intentions. Paro, the evil taskmaster, so stubborn in his ways and unwilling to change. How about Bilam, who would give up at nothing to curse the Jews, no matter how many impediments he bumped into? Then move into Nach and meet Yerovam ben Nevat, a completely corrupt, egotistical maniac who would stop at nothing to keep his throne. Meet Achav and Izebel, who literally tried to undo Avraham Avinu's work by disseminating Avodah Zarah to the world. Menashe HaMelech killed his own grandfather, the prophet Yeshaya, and Nebuchadnezzar. All he wanted was to burn the holiest place on earth. Haman sought, as the Amalekian dynasty is, to commit genocide and murder all Jews. How about the evil Roman general, the malicious and bloodthirsty Titus HaRasha? And you don't get the name HaRasha for nothing. And if you follow all of the generations, you even meet people that you can't even utter their names, like Hitler, Yamach Shemo. It's still hard for us to put into words the evil that he committed and the barbaric nature in which somebody could just murder innocent babies amongst all of the other horrific and macabre tragedies that he caused. So the Medrash is kind of shockingly and penetratingly true. You see throughout the generations kind of a depressing thing. Such horrible, wretched individuals. So inside of our boxing ring, we really look to one corner and see some horrible folks. However, if you turn your head, you'll also see tremendously righteous tzaddikim who stopped at nothing to eradicate evil and to stand up for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Avraham Avinu, who discovered HaKadosh Baruch Hu, wrote books about it, educated tens of thousands of people. This is before the days of technology. Probably created the largest positive influence on the world forever. passing that torch to Yitzchak and Yaakov, who continued to build and spread and expand what it means to be a Yid. We meet Rachel Imenu, whose superhuman self-control was paralleled by none, a woman whose tefillos still protect us to this day. A man called Yosef Hatzadik, and you also don't get that second name Hatzadik for nothing, whose resoluteness to fear God and do what's right withstood tremendous tests and temptations. His legacy still inspires people today. David HaMelech, King David, who's Amunah B'Hashem, Pashat slayed giants, and whose tefillos we still say every single day. We meet Esther HaMalka, Queen Esther, whose total selflessness to the Jewish people and to Hashem, to walk into Achashverosh's chamber, risking her life to do what's right. We meet Rabbi Akiva, the great Tana, who did tshuva and started to learn at age 40 and became the greatest Torah teacher perhaps to ever live. Ravina, Rav Ashi, Rashi, Rambam, Ramban, tremendous, titanic Torah influencers, people who made sure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah would live on. We meet the Baal Shem Tov, who inspired the world, who literally picked up Jews throughout the world, inspiring them in their service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu from a small town of Mezhbej. The Chavetz Chaim, who changed the way that people talk, literally, how everyone talks to this day. And Yidden in our generation, who are following in this path quietly, and some not so quietly, sticking up for what's right. There are so many ripe examples throughout the history of the world. Examples of the most wretched and evil people, and alternatively, Kenegda against them, extraordinary leaders, and people who effected positive change, real change, inspiring millions in our world. And this is all the people who we know about. We don't even know from the hundreds, if not thousands of people who quietly either died al Kiddush Hashem, people that their stories were never told, that stuck up for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who stuck up for Hashem. Binu shenos dar vadar. History repeats itself. And the farther that you go back is the farther that you can look forward. It's important that we all set aside time to study our history, our past. Rav Pam used to teach this, to set aside a special time to learn history. Read a book, a history book, before you go to sleep. Listen to the fantastic history podcasts, Jewish history podcasts from Rabbi Wolbe or from Yehuda Geberer, both fantastic ways to learn about our past. Educate yourself about your Zaydis and your Bubbies and what they stood for. Learn about this Jewish fraternity that you're a part of. And then our Medrash finishes with 7 precious words. Ela shenidonim, that people are judged, kol echad ve'echad lefi ma'asav. But each person is judged individually. There are evil people that will rise up in each generation, wicked ones. We have a choice to be like the stars or to be as lowly as the dust that we tread upon. We must stay true to our faith. Society will always change and people will rise up against us. But fight against evil. Stick to your guns. Stick to what you know is right. Stick up for Hashem. Teach these lessons and become the next chapter in the world's history book.